Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, a brief update of a few points. Again, forgive the lack of polish and structure. First of all, perhaps I'll start with the aftershock, which you're all aware happened this morning. We don't have a good picture yet of what extra damage that may have caused. It's 6.1 on the Richter scale, so it is a significant earthquake in its own right. We believe the epicenter was at a place called Petit Goâve, which is on the northern coast of the western part of Haiti, west of Port-au-Prince. So the worst damage may have been in this place called Petit Goâve, and there's a major city near there you've heard me talk about before called Jacmel. So it may be that the damage is worse there than it is in Port-au-Prince, but that's really very preliminary reports. We don't have anything more on that yet. I mean, just take the opportunity of that to say that we are stepping up significantly our efforts to reach the cities outside Port-au-Prince, particularly Jacmel, but also other places like Léogâne and so on, which were also very badly damaged. Search and rescue teams are there in most cases, and aid is being delivered there in increasing quantities, but still very limited compared with the need, I have to say. Otherwise, the search and rescue operation is still continuing. As you'll have all seen, people are still being pulled out from the rubble extraordinarily. And we'll continue with that as long as there's any hope of finding people alive. I think the latest figure I saw was 121 people who've been pulled out alive since the search and rescue teams got there, and that's not, of course, counting those who the Haitians themselves pulled out, which would be many, many more. And that, I think, is a very significant success for the search and rescue apparatus and the search and rescue teams who've been there. They deserve all our congratulations and thanks. Otherwise, we're very concerned, as everybody is, about the continuing health issues, particularly the need to make sure that those who are injured in the earthquake, and they're very numerous, I can't give you a figure, but we know they're very numerous, and whose wounds may be infected and are still waiting for the kind of surgical treatment, at least, that they need. We're straining every nerve again to make sure that there are the right number of doctors, the right amount of drugs and equipment, and field hospitals there. I think there are already 7 field hospitals there, others on the way. The American hospital ship, I think, is now effectively there. So again, we're hoping that we'll be able to turn a corner there very soon. Otherwise, the focus remains on water. There is water available, as I've said before, in large quantities at the main treatment plant. It's a question of getting it into the tankers and getting it out. That is happening in increasing quantities. I can't give you a figure. There were fuel constraints on that, particularly a couple of days ago, but I think those fuel constraints are beginning to ease a bit. The government of Haiti has released some fuel from its own stocks elsewhere. There's fuel coming in from the Dominican Republic in increasing quantities, so hopefully that will start to ease that particular problem. On the question of food, the latest figures I have are that the World Food Programme should have reached around 250,000 people with rations for several days, and if you add that to that, the efforts of many, many others, the Haitian Red Cross, the American Red Cross, the ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, and NGOs like World Vision, I think you will get to a figure of about 500,000 people who should have been reached with reasonable quantities of food so far. Again, still very far short of what's needed. We're well aware of that. We think there are 3 million people affected. 2 million of those, is our judgment, are going to need food for 6 months. So we've obviously got a long way to go, but that effort is being ramped up with increasing speed and scale, and I hope we'll start to meet the need. There is a bit of food available on the streets for sale, but of course there's a problem of money to buy it with. But we hope that some of the banks at least will be open tomorrow to start the cash flowing. In terms of logistics, the airport is working increasingly well in terms of numbers of flights going through. That's extremely helpful, both, of course, military flights and humanitarian flights, and we're trying to refine with the Americans our coordination mechanism for prioritization of those flights to make sure that the priorities are set in the best possible way, and everybody's working very hard on that. Even though there will always be, no doubt, complaints from this or that quarter, we are doing our best to make sure that the most urgent needs are met first, including medical, and I hope that Doctors Without Borders did get a plane or are getting a plane to land today. I think they had a slot, and I hope that was successful. Otherwise, there's increasing emphasis all the time on the use of the Dominican Republic as a staging post for equipment and food and other items coming in, landing at Santo Domingo and then using the road route from Santo Domingo to Port-au-Prince. Again, that's working well. It's a slow journey because it's congested, but that is successful. And as I think I've said before, we're trying to use smaller ports and smaller airports where we can, particularly some of the smaller airports on the Dominican Republic side of the border. So I think in logistics terms, we're beginning to, as I say, turn a corner, and in deliveries terms, but we recognise there's still a huge way to go before we can make that work as well as we want to do. The cooperation with the Americans, as I say, is going well, both at headquarters level and at in the field. The generals in the field are working well with the acting special representative of the Secretary General, Mr. Moulet, and his team. For example, one of the issues is obviously one of the potential constraints in deliveries, at least for UN deliveries, is military security, escorts, and so on. MINUSTAH, the peacekeeping force, are regarding this as their top priority, getting the escorts to as many aid convoys and aid distributions as possible. But we hope that with the increasing arrival of the US Marines in the next few days, they will be able to support us in that role by taking over some of that escorting tasks, because obviously MINUSTAH has a limited capacity when it's also got to deal with maintaining law and order on the streets of Port-au-Prince. And on that point, I think there are increasing numbers of Haitian police on the streets. I think I saw a figure of 2,000 yesterday as they recover from the grievous blows that they suffered in the earthquake itself. Let me stop there and respond to your questions.